be sharing my first time harvesting black gold from Vermicompost. So I will show you all the tools I have. I have my gloves and these. I have my vermicompost bin with stilts because mine is a two-tote system. I have a container to collect worm pee and newspaper for bedding, a little bit of water in a bucket, and an empty bucket, along with the giant black tarp you see. So let's get started. This is what my vermicompost bin looks like right now. I don't know if you can see very well, but these little pearl looking things, those are eggs. So I have a two-tote system along with a pulley. So this is their new bedding, and all I have to do is I have to pull this out. But first, I need to collect their pee, which is down at the bottom down here. So to get that out, I will have to take these apart, and I will be putting the top tote on top of these stilts, so I do not crush any worms on the bottom of that tote. And here we have our worm pee. Oops, try not to spill it. Got quite a bit. And there we have worm pee, or worm wee. But to use this, you want to dilute it a 10-to-1 ratio, so it looks like a weak tea. Very light, should be very light colored. It can be acidic for plants. You just want to, make sure you dilute it enough. This is the pulley system I have with worms, new bedding. It's just a piece of plastic on bottom with some wire tied to it. The whole point of the pulley is to get as many worms as possible to go into the new bedding, so it makes harvesting the black gold easier without pulling as many worms. They're already in that upper area. They stay within the first 2 to 3 inches of the soil. And this is the lovely black gold. As you can see, my two-tote system, I have ventilation up here, but I also have holes on the bottom, and that is why I put it on stilts, so I didn't have to set it on the deck, and trying to limit crushing my worms. So we're going to try and pull out as much clumpy food and worms and eggs as much as possible. We're going to put them in the empty bucket. Sorted it between 2 piles. I'm taking the main pile and spreading it out very thinly and picking out as many eggs and worms as I can, along with clumps of food or paper or anything like that. So all of the stuff that's already been sorted is over here, and then all the stuff I have to finish is back there. This is what I pulled out. I got eggs, clumpy carton, and stuff, eggshells, and then all my worms are in there. So now is to collect that into this bucket, but first I have to take this bucket and dump it back in here. So you will see how I do that. Okay, so now that I have my worm tea and I have sorted through my black gold back here, which I will be spreading it out and laying it flat and letting it dry a little bit before I put it in the bucket. But now we're going to take, if you're doing the two-tote method like I am, you're going to take the tote with the holes on the bottom, and that is what you're going to put your worms back into. So I'm going to take some newspaper, and I am going to cover the bottom of this with about 2 or 3 layers of newspaper. And the reason is because your worms will try to go through those holes. And then when they do go through those holes, they will drown in their own pee, which is in the second tote. And the only purpose for this 2-tote system is to separate the worms from their pee. The pee will drip down into the bottom tote, and it will keep the upper tote more dry and better aerated so that the worms aren't drowning. So I'm just going to take my bucket of water, some newspaper, and I am going to start laying it. So that's good. I will show you. Got my newspaper in there. And now I will take that pulley system I had. Just gonna take it and dump it right in there. And there is a lot of worms in here, and I am so glad that this pulley system worked. So you'll see the worms. They've got their food in here, which is good. They're still eating. They have bread, newspaper. You know, there they are. So they're happy, and I got majority of my worms up on top on my pulley system, which is what I was hoping for. All the excess. Spray this. This is where their tea goes, and I just want to make sure that all of the dirt and soil is out of there, just like so. Voila. So now I will put this back in. Okay, so now I am going to make new bedding. I collected in this bucket along with all of the clumps and food. I'm going to pour it in here, but I am going to layer it. I'm going to take some newspaper and some water. Just going to put a bunch of it in there. Now normally I would put more food in here, but since there's already food in the upper layer, the bread and the tomatoes that I put in here, I'm not going to put any more. I don't want to, I don't want rotting food, and trying to keep as many pests and bugs and mold away as possible. Now I'm just going to take our wet newspaper and I'm just going to rip it. And just sprinkle it in there. Now you don't need to fill the tote full. It just needs to be like maybe halfway. Oh, and for the worm eggs, the cocoons, I wasn't able to get all of the cocoons out of the black gold. And that's okay, because one worm lays an egg every 7 days. So if you have 1,000 worms, it's 1,000 eggs in a week. I got a good amount of eggs in here, so I'm not worried about it. When feeding your worms, it's a good idea to blend their food or cut it, dice it, break it up as much as possible for them. It will make the composting process a lot faster. We'll check back in about 30 minutes and see if our black gold is ready to put into our bucket.
1 hour later.
So it's been an hour, and our black gold looks great. It's slightly damp, so now we're just going to put it back into our bucket. And here are the results from my vermicompost. beautiful black gold. I hope you enjoyed watching my first time harvesting vermicompost. Just look how beautiful and rich that is. All poop.